Hello, I've been lucky enough to win a beautiful kit to make a linen blouse, and it's plain white linen, just like this piece here. But what I would like to do is to decorate it, and I've decided that I'm going to do some block printing. Now, while I was thinking about this, I thought it'd be a nice idea to make a little video about block printing to show you how simple it is. And all you need is some very basic equipment. So you need something soft to work on. You don't want to be working on a hard surface, so I've got a little bit of old blanket here that you could sort of fold up some old cloth, just something to give a little bit of give. You need a palette or a plate to put your paint on. Because I'm printing onto fabric, I want to use fabric paint, so I'm using a fabric paint like this, an old bit of kitchen sponge, and my block that I'm going to print with. And these are these type of Indian blocks that you can buy, but I'm going to just use this very simple one. Your fabric should be washed before you use it to remove any size on the surface. So I'm just going to put this little scrap here, and then you put a tiny bit of paint in your palette, not too much. And then I'm going to dab my sponge into this. So I want enough paint on the sponge, but don't want it sopping wet. And then I'm going to get my block and I'm just going to dab the paint onto the surface. And again, you want it covered, plenty of paint on there to cover it, but you don't want so much that it goes gloopy. And then you literally just put your stamp down. Press really hard and just lift it up. And there you go, it is that easy. And then every time you want to make another print, you reapply the paint to make sure you've got enough on there. Position your block, press down firmly and lift. And you just, every time you make a print, you reapply the paint and do it again. And it really is as simple as that. And then when you've finished, you let your paint dry thoroughly. I tend to leave it overnight, give it a good hot iron, and then it's set, you can launder it, and you're way to go. Another nice way to print onto fabric is to stencil. And you need the same equipment. So I've got my piece of fabric here. I'm using fabric paints again. You can use a sponge to apply the paint, but I sometimes prefer to use an actual stencil brush, which I've already got paint on the end of this. You can probably see it's a flat-ended brush. And you need to cut out a stencil. And I've just used an ordinary piece of thin card. And this, I'm hoping it's going to work just fine. So you lay your stencil down onto your fabric, and I've got my blanket behind there to give a little bit of softness. And I'm just going to get a little bit of paint out. Probably got enough in the lid here to use. And you want to get paint on the end of your brush. You don't want it absolutely wet again, or if you're using a sponge, the same. Just enough paint to transfer, not enough to make it really wet. So a fairly dry brush really. Then holding my stencil nice and still. This may not work, we'll see. I'm just going to dab it. Just going to load a little bit more paint onto my brush. Again, not too much. Just do one more. And then very carefully, without dragging, I'm just going to lift my stencil. And there we are. So two ways of printing on fabric. I can stencil or I can use a block print. So I think I might be ready to print on my actual piece of linen for my blouse. And so here I am printing the sleeve, or the frill on the sleeve of my blouse, with a repeating pattern, stenciled leaves and printed flowers. If you follow me on Instagram or on my Facebook textile art page, I'll put the links, you might actually see the finished blouse.